there, and welcome to this edition of Friends and Neighbors. I'm Sherry Tatum, your co-host, along with my wonderful co-host, Miss Sandra O'Neill, that I love
And
dearly.
I love you too, Sherry. It's always such a delight to be here with you.
Absolutely.
We get to talk to wonderful, amazing guests, and we've got one coming up.
Well, Dr. Jantz, he has written a book called How to, So Much to Live For, How to Provide Help and Hope to Someone Who's Considering Suicide. Now, that's a sombering subject.
Yes.
But it's a very real thing, and it's something I feel like, and Dr. Jantz and you feel like we need to discuss here on the show.
A lot of the times people sweep things like that under the rug.
Right.
They don't want to talk about
Right.
it, but you know, it's really important to discuss, and it's also important to understand that it's something that can be helped. It's not taboo. We can get help for this.
Now, I might mention, too, that Dr. Jantz has been on Fox News. He's been on the Dr. Phil. He's been on 700 Club. He's done over 200 interviews.
I'm so grateful he's here with Friends and Neighbors.
Knowledgeable. And he has just finished his other book, his 40th book. So, Dr. Gregory Jantz, welcome to Friends and Neighbors. And I just want to say, why are there so many suicides today when we are such a blessed country and blessed people? When I read all the notes about you and what you were speaking of, I couldn't get it out of my mind. Why? Why is this that his suicide has increased 33% since 1999, I think it is?
To 2019.
Yeah, to
1999 to 2019.
33%. Why?
Well, and I just want to acknowledge this is a difficult topic to talk about. I never dreamed that I would ever do a book related to the topic of suicide, and suicide's even a difficult word to say. But what prompted this was what I'm seeing happen in our culture, in our country. And it was alarming when I began to dig into this to see that our 12 to 17-year-old kids, 12 to 17, that suicide is the second leading cause of death. Now, that's just hard. That's hard to even say.
It's the second leading cause of death?
And so when we look at that, they go, how is that even possible?
Yes.
Well, you know, we've all come through an interesting time, the last couple of years, whatever we want to call this period of time. But what we know is for our kids, for so many, there was virtual learning, and virtual learning was really a great failure. We had more academic failure last year than our history.
I agree.
More kids failed academically. We had more isolation. We had more depression. And we've got a generation of young folks who really have apathy for the future. There's way too much anxiety and depression. And that's not just with kids, that's with adults as well. And we've seen a real increase among all age groups with addictions and addictive behavior. Alcohol sales are at all-time highs. So when we add depression, anxiety, isolation, it's kind of in a way that perfect storm to create an addiction. And then we see people after a while move into despair, despondency, and really move into those suicidal type thoughts. Right. And so I feel like we can save some lives. And so that's part of my mission right now. We can save lives and save futures.
Well, one question I wanted to ask, though, was, do you think the young people, they're getting too much overload information politically and socially on cell phones, on computers, on the television? I mean, it's just like it's saturating people, and a lot of it is really not good stuff, especially for young people to hear. Do you think that could be a problem, and should we monitor that with our younger people?
It needs to be a topic of discussion. Social media and depression is significant. That we never would think about, okay, social media and depression. We know more time that people spend in that digital world tends not to be a real healthy one.
Right.
It tends to be, there's a lot of what we call doom scrolling right now. People are just addicted to all the negative. And for our kids, there's cyberbullying, there's bully behavior online. The average age to exposure to pornography is about age 8 or 9. And so what we're seeing, and that's strange to say that as well. So what we're seeing is kids who are being oversaturated. You used a really good word to describe it. There's way too much, and it's not positive.
So what can we as adults, people that can help and model, what can we do to give them tools that will help and bring hope back to this age group? Because I like what you said initially. You were talking about, the world actually went upside down, and we all went on, the professors, the teachers, the educators went on a, we're going to do this. Let's all hands in on deck. And of course, it became more of a virtual learning environment. But how can we now pull back and edify the heart, the growing heart of these young people to understand how to navigate life now outside of the screen?
Yes. Kids and young people and adults, we need relationships. 61% of Americans right now say they're lonely. What? Loneliness. We might say there's somewhat of a loneliness epidemic. So we're more connected, if you will, but we're less relationship based. So kids need relationship. All the normal going through stages with their peers. Look, they've been told, for some, they still have to wear a mask in school. They're told you can't touch your teacher, so there's no hugs. And so we've turned upside down all the normal development that kids need. So when we begin to look at this, kids need time with one another. We need to lower the exaggeration of fear in their life. See, there's a theme of fear going through our culture, and this is why anxiety disorder and social anxiety is really, again, at all-time highs. Absolutely. Think about social anxiety. We changed all the rules, and, if it's like you stay 6 feet away, you don't do this or that. What? Yes. You see somebody, you don't know, do I hug them, shake their hand, or am I supposed to stay away from them?
Absolutely.
Well, yes, and that's exactly very confusing.
Yes.
You start from such a young age, even in pre-K and kindergarten, where they learn by your cues, your social cues. But when you separate that, it's really disheartening. I wonder what the wave will look like. Now, what are you seeing? Because I know you're coming to us from Seattle, and talk to us a little bit about what you're doing there specifically, and where you are physically.
Sure. Well, I'm today here at the Center, A Place of Hope, which is a facility that treats anxiety and depression and a lot of addiction from a whole person vantage point. We believe you've got to cover, obviously there's the emotional, there's the physical. At times, people who are suffering from anxiety, maybe they have a thyroid issue, and one of the things that they're going to experience is anxiety physiologically. We know that we've got to cover the spiritual side of people's lives. And so we really believe in the whole person. That's why we even do have fitness and do fitness assessments and natural health care. We're seeing right now, one of the things we're seeing is sleep issues. People, and again, it's been said, we kind of have a sleep disorder epidemic. People have not done well over the last 2 years as it relates back to sleep. Insomnia. And so people are waking up during the night, sometimes with anxiety or panic attacks during the night, and they can't get back to sleep. So even sleep doesn't bring about restoration. So as we look at, man, there's a lot going on. If we just let things go on and we don't intervene and do anything, that's where we get down that road of despair and hopelessness.
Give up.
And this is also why the second highest group of the individuals with suicide are men right now, approximately 50 and above. Is
that military? Because I know the rate in military suicide is very, very high. Do you offer help for our military people?
Absolutely. And military rate, and you think about the suicide and how some of the more recent events are affecting our veterans, it's tragic.
Absolutely.
And you see that with the PTSD, but then I also
Yes.
wonder in our regular society if people are suffering from PTSD with what has happened the past couple of years and how we're transitioning out because it was so sudden, so radically different. What are you, do you, I don't mean to compare military. If when you're serving our country, I'm so grateful for you and thankful for you. But would that be a comparison as well for just the layman person when things get changed so radically like that?
When they come home
Sure.
to everything is entirely different from where they were.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right, and at times feeling very undervalued and unappreciated. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we're seeing with post-traumatic stress disorder
Yes.
is anybody who's had some trauma in their life, maybe it's significant loss, maybe there's been abuse in a person's life. This last couple of years, there's been a lot of just trigger points that have really caused a lot of that anxiety and depression to come back. Kind of maybe from the original trauma, but now we live in a world and a period right now where there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of anxiety about the future. And so people have been in a hyper vigilant state now for a long time. And here's the other piece. Folks don't know what to believe. They turn on the news. Oh, wait a minute. And I can look over here and it's totally different. So we're living in an age of confusion and distrust. We're not believing what we're being told.
Well, I would like to ask the question of what are some of the signs of someone that's maybe contemplating suicide? What would I look for in that person?
And we all know somebody or somebody close to us or in our circle of friends and relationships, we all know somebody, all of us do, that's probably committed suicide. So this has affected all of us. Some of the things that we look for, well, there could be the obvious struggles with depression and things aren't getting better, but you may see an increase even with more isolation. If a person doesn't want to be with other people, they're isolating even more. They're cutting themselves off from maybe their normal peer groups. And you're seeing that they're becoming more distant. And then we may see an increase in addictive type behavior, escapism behavior, drinking. We know that a large percentage of the folks who do take their life have some kind of chemical influence, whether drugs, alcohol, and it could even be a misuse of prescription drugs. So we do look, well, is there an increase of addictive behavior? Another one could be just like personal hygiene and self-care. Usually if a person is in that level of depression and suicidal thinking, they'd stop taking care of themselves. So things like eating, showering, staying clean, because it no longer matters. And those are just a few of the things. We also look for how they're talking, their language.
Really?
Are they saying things like, I'd probably be better off if I wasn't even around, or I wish I wasn't even alive. So they're using language that could be a cue.
Yeah, and it would be negative language. I had a quick question when you were talking about the cues of distancing themselves. Wow, in the environment that we've been told to be at this moment, or in the recent times, you're told to distance. You're told to keep far away, and how can you even? How can you combat that?
Well, right.
It's like our hands are tied a little, right?
Well, we have unnecessary fear, and fear paralyzes us, and fear causes us not to make good decisions. If I'm filled with anxiety, this part of my brain, executive function, my frontal lobe, where I'm supposed to make good decisions, anxiety shuts that down. It's hard to make a decision. You probably notice if you feel anxious, it's like I don't know what to do. So when we look at, okay, what do people need? People still need to be in relationship. And I still need hugs, touch and a good word, and I need to see people's faces. I need to see eye contact. Those are some, if you will, basic human needs. So, but people are overly afraid
Yes.
right now. So, but I look, how can I show compassion? A person that is in a world of suicide thinking feels like nobody can understand. So,
How
empathy.
do you help that, though, Dr. Jace?
What are some tools? Yes.
What are some things that, like, if
Because I don't want to come across as being insensitive.
Yeah.
If
You just want to help.
you want to help, but how can you shepherd and love? Or
What would you say, though? I mean, you have to have, seem like some words of encouragement or a love to show to these people that there is hope for the future, maybe to see better days ahead. I mean, what would I do to help someone?
Sure. And when you're in that darkness, you can't see those better days. All you see is more darkness. So one of the things I'm going to engage in conversation. I'm going to ask them, please, I really want to know how bad is it? Can you share with me what you're experiencing? Okay. Let them talk about it. Sometimes they're pretty quick to, hey, you know what? You don't need to be thinking that way. Things are going to get better. And we load it with judgment, really. So really, show empathy. Let them talk and let them share about how bad their experience is. Because one of the things is they feel like nobody can understand. Now, that doesn't mean once they share, and I probably would ask them, I go, it sounds like this has really, really been a very tough period of time. What have you been doing? Have you ever thought about harming yourself? I'm going to ask them those questions.
Wow.
Have you ever thought about taking your life? Is it that bad? So that can open up a door of actually conversation and help you as a loved one begin the process of them getting help.
Yes.
I'm going to tell them, I'm going to work with you and we're going to find some help and the resources for you. I am going to help with that.
Yes.
Because see, a person who's struggling, they can't make a decision. Fear has them paralyzed. And so they do need us to intervene in their life.
Absolutely. Well, I know when I was reading some of your bio, you had mentioned that in 2018, 50,000 people took their own lives. Now, that's a lot of families left with, kids left without a mother or a father, a family member.
Or parents left without children.
Yeah, what do you offer? Any words, anything you can help us to help that person, because they're hurting, have to be, for a loved one to take their own lives. Do you offer help for that?
Absolutely. Some of the most complicated grief is the grief that comes when somebody's taken their life and it's been a loved one. Because one of the things that happens is you go, well, what should I have done? And we start to blame ourselves. What if I would have only? And we really get stuck in that endless cycle of I could have done something. So we get into self-blame. That's difficult. The other piece is when there's a death by suicide, it's like forever unfinished. It's like the grief process is really difficult.
Okay.
And I do believe that a person needs some good, appropriate counseling. That's not an easy one to overcome. It's like if a person dies of a disease, we had a forewarning and we knew there was probably going to be a process and it's a little more understandable. Suicide, it's so hard to understand.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I had asked you, does this happen a lot? I did know and had a friend that tried to commit suicide. He lived. I tried to do what I knew to do to encourage he and his family. But later on, he tried again. And why? How does that happen? What can you say to someone? You tried this one time. It didn't work. There's no hope in that. Why would someone try again, Dr. Jantz, after trying the first time and failing? Do they not know that maybe God has a reason for them to live? I mean, can religiousness come into this? suicide?
I think it needs to, and really, there's a healing that I'm going to say that it's supernatural that comes from God, and we need that.
Amen.
That piece, when I look at, okay, there's probably some things that still need to be resolved. If I'm still struggling with suicidal thinking or thinking I'm going to do it again, this time I'm going to really finish it, something inside is still, if you will, out of order. And so we need to get to those root issues, those root causes that's really causing this to reemerge.
That's so important for us to focus on our Creator and who fulfills us and sustains us in a culture that has their own truths or my truths, their truth. If we stand on the truth of Jesus Christ, that is powerful. The Holy Spirit can come in and shift that atmosphere. It's very powerful. Now, what would you say quickly if one of our viewers is really struggling and they don't know who to call, they don't have a family member, what advice would you give them? Who can they call for help?
Sure. We maintain a large directory of resources, and one of the things that I would suggest, start by getting more information. You may really be struggling, but let some time pass in order to create a plan. You may need help with that plan. And a plan, when we have a plan, and really it's a plan of hope. When I get a good plan together for getting me the help I need, I feel some hope for the future. I feel some relief. So don't try to do this on your own. When we isolate more, we get more into our own thinking, which oftentimes is not good. So I'm going to say you have to reach out, get more information. You know, as good as the book is, it's not a cure.
Sure.
We've got to get out there and allow, I'm going to say, there's a piece of that has to occur where we understand God created us and I have great value and I am loved. We've got to come to that place.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being here. And we've got to take a break. And so thank you for being with us, Dr. Jantz. And I hope our viewing audience is helped.
Yes, thank you for sharing your wisdom and thank you for what you are doing.
And your books.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
There is hope.
There is hope. Amen. Well, I hope you enjoyed that with our interview with Dr. Jantz as much as I did. You know, Sandra, that is such a difficult topic to talk about.
It
people
really is.
taking their own lives. And I would have never dreamed 50,000 people in 1 year in our own country had committed suicide.
You know, it is a very hard subject, and I think that we need to look at it as any other medical disease out there.
Yes.
And people need to stop categorizing it as, I mean, it's so personal, it's so emotional, but we do have our nervous system. God created us, and I loved what Dr. Jantz said. He was talking about the front lobe and how fear really paralyzes us. So if you take good care of your body and you go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning, every morning, you're eating well, you're eating your smoothies, you also have to take care of your mental health. It is important.
Too. Yes.
Part of the mental health is the whole being.
Yes.
God created us to honor Him, to seek Him. He asked us to exercise, eat well, get some fresh air, and not be get some good exercise. I mentioned that already, but that in the wholeness makes us well. So part of our mental health is part of our body. It's part of our physiological self too. So like my husband was mentioning the other day, you know, if you have a heart disease or liver disease, you're going to go and take care of it. If you are having an emotional problem or you're really in depression,
yes.
That is a disease that we should not look down upon. We need to go get help.
Don't ignore it.
You know, and
try to know
Well, and it's hard. I mean, Dr. Jantz did say that. When you are in the middle of it, you do ignore it.
Yes.
You are in it. So, but as part of a caregiver, or a parent, or a sister, or a brother, let's not put a taboo on it, and let's look at it as any other disease that's out there.
Disease.
And you know, one thing that hit me really hard with the interview with Dr. Jantz is how detrimental living in a virtual world with kids
is, and so much media. Yes,
it's just to me that just so let's use it as a tool, but let's not replace our lives with it.
It's become a babysitter.
Well, it's become more than that. It has become a part of our living.
It's become all knowledge to them. It's become how they set their lives in what they want to do. It's how they keep up with the whole world and all their peers, and perfection sets in too.
And you know what, the comparison. Well, and I'm guilty of it. I mean, I'm on social media. I love it. But you know what? This whole time of uncertainty that has come our way, God has shifted my perspective. I mean, I'm still posting here and there, but you know what? We do need to make sure what we're valuing.
Yes.
And are we valuing our time together, our hugs, our edifying each other up instead of tearing each other up.
Putting each other first.
Right. And comparing each other. Half of the thing, it's a smokescreen anyway. So it broke my heart to hear that kindergartners and elementary kids are going through this.
Are committing suicide. Well, God bless you. We hope you've enjoyed today, and we'll see you next time on Friends and Neighbors.